Hi, I'm Jason Sterling. I'm a member of the EA Creator Network, and today we're going to do a build tour. The build tour, the big one, the Forever Resort, as I've come to affectionately nickname this particular place, the Grand Geyser Wilderness Resort. That's its actual name. But I feel like it is the Forever Resort. I feel like I've been working on it literally forever. I've done a lot of this building and play testing online on live streams. So you can kind of see just from the number of videos that are just on live stream how much time and effort I've put into this place. And has it been worth it? Well, I think it's been worth it. I think so. I like it. It is really big. It takes a lot of processing power. It takes a while to load in. There's a very big structure. But I wanted a real realism to it, and it is very realistic to a really large resort. I want to bring someplace to bring my Sims that would really feel pretty fleshed out like a real hotel would be. As we approach the hotel, of course, you can see there's a main central structure with two wings off to each side. It's done in kind of what we call the national park architecture. Sometimes here in the United States, it has a definite sort of inspiration from hotels that were built in the late 1800s, early 1900s in national parks here in the United States. It's a style that has been sort of inspirational to a lot of people over the years, including Disney. And there was a really large hotel in New Zealand that also kind of went with this style. So with that being the case, I also went with this style. It's a style I love. It's got a more natural sort of American West, grand, expansive sort of feel to it, which is highlighted, as you can see here, in the 3-story lobby. You enter the lobby. There is a place to sit, flanked by 2 fireplaces and a bar directly ahead of you. To each side of the main doorway, you have a check-in desk. It's just for show, naturally, because this is not a hotel. It's not a resort. It's not completely fleshed out in that fashion. But there is a mock-up of a desk, a check-in desk, and there is a gift shop to the other side. Now, again, the gift shop is just kind of something I threw in there. So if you want your Sims to be able to purchase a souvenir, there's some vending machines there. They work best. There's also a stall that, in theory, you can try to hire someone to come in and work the stall and actually buy things from them. But in reality, I've been having a little bit of trouble getting the people that I've hired in that fashion for either the stall or the yoga instructor or a masseuse to always show up. I think sometimes so many Sims have spawned in, because this is a venue, so many Sims have spawned in that the max number of Sims that the game allows in a region, including who's on the lot, is filled up. So I've actually seen where I've hired someone for a stall and they've materialized at the front of the hotel, at the spawn point, then they disappeared. They just turned around and left, right? So I think that's the game, sending it there and then saying, nope, you've got the max number of Sims here, pulling them back. But those areas are there. Now, to the larger side of the lobby, in the wings, one side is residential. That's going to be rooms. So on that side, you've got 2 guest rooms. They're designed for a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 children, or 4 adults, because it's bunk beds and they're child's bunk beds. So an adult will sleep in a child's bunk bed, of course. So each of those rooms on the first floor will hold 4 Sims each, in theory. Now, again, if your Sim comes and they're all by themselves, that room by themselves, and if other Sims come, so if the game spawns Sims in to attend this venue, and they go into a room and there's a double bed, even though it'll hold 2 Sims, if they're not with somebody they know that they're used to sleeping with, it'll only hold 1. So in that case, each of those rooms would only hold 3 Sims, right? That's kind of how the system works. Across the hallway from those rooms is what I think of as the movie room. It's a room set up for Sims to watch movies at night. I intended this as a sort of family resort, and that is something that you see a lot of family resorts or on cruise ships. There'll be something set up in the evenings where families or even just kids by themselves can go and watch a movie. Also sandwiched in there is a changing room for both the indoor and the outdoor pool areas. It's not exactly a locker room. I set it up with a lot more privacy than that. So the idea is each of those rooms, each of those bathrooms is meant for a single sim. They're obviously unisex, right? I did throw in a couple of lockers just to give the appearance of someplace where you might store your stuff. To the other side of the lobby, we have what I think of as the activity wing. On the first floor of this activity wing, we have a small food court. The food court, I originally intended to just do as just stalls. So a sim would just activate the stall by hiring an attendant who would come in and run the stall, and you'd order your food from them. That often did not work for what I mentioned earlier, for the same reason I mentioned earlier. So I did go ahead and end up building a small kitchen for, in theory, a employee, a role that's meant as an employee of the hotel to cook food for everybody to eat at different times of the day. In reality, unfortunately, everybody uses the kitchen and you end up with quite a traffic jam, quite a mess of various dishes and half-made dishes lying around. I think that's the big failing of this pack. I'm going to be completely honest, and that's why it doesn't work very well as a hotel or resort, is you're not going to have, or even just a venue in a lot of ways, you're not going to have under normal circumstances in real life where people are going to go into a commercial kitchen at a hotel and start cooking for themselves. And yet with this sort of setup, you do. And there's not really much other way to feed, for your Sims to feed themselves. Now, having a person on staff do the cooking did make it better. It made it better. It did make it better so that if a Sim comes in there and there's food already made and out on the counter, they will typically eat that first before they go to cook. So that's a little bit of a workaround, and that's why that's there, and it did make it a little bit better. I also threw in a couple of vending machines, mostly for realism, because a lot of food courts are going to have a few vending machines in them, or a lot of resorts are. So I threw in a few vending machines outside, even though we have seating inside, and typically the Sims just use the seating inside. Outside, I did put some al fresco seating, and I put in a couple of picnic blankets over by an artificial stream and waterfall, which I've never really seen at a resort, but I always think that'd be kind of nice, right? If you're at a really nice resort like this, if they had like something set up where you could maybe buy a picnic basket or rent a picnic basket, but it's all stocked, and you could go outside and have like a real picnic with your family, that's to kind of represent that. Across the hall from the food court is our gymnasium. It's our gym. We got new gym stuff, of course. Outside the gym, there is access to the pool. There's also an area where you can do yoga. Now, just like with the stalls, hiring someone to do the yoga class was hit or miss whether or not they would actually show up. Yes, you can designate someone in your party, I guess if they're trained enough to do it and also to run the spin class. And sometimes it'll give you the option of someone who's on staff at the hotel sometimes, but not always. And again, it's not very realistic that you would have someone you're traveling with or another guest at the hotel do a position that would normally be hired out by the resort. The resort would hire someone to run the yoga class. The resort would hire someone to run the spin class. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I did put all that stuff there, and all the exercise equipment does work. And there is a locker room, again, set up much like the room for the swimming pool. Individual sort of spaces with a toilet, sinks, and shower. Outside with the yoga area, I put what I think of as the adult, right? The adults. You know the word there? Hot tub, the new in-ground hot tubs, which I actually love. Absolutely love them. And as I mentioned, there's also access to the pool here, which is set up a bit like a lap pool. So you would swim back and forth, but it does tie into the kids area of the pool at the other side of the resort. And there's a T-junction so that you can swim from that lap pool into the indoor pool. So if there's bad weather, there's an indoor pool behind the lobby that has a slide and a diving board and connects to both the gym and the swimming pool kind of locker room areas if you wanted to change. If your Sims want to change clothes. Now, lastly, back by the yoga area, I put a small elevated platform with a tea set. So if your Sims want to have tea, gazing upon the beautiful bounty of nature around them, I think you can see actually, you might be able to see the waterfall, can definitely see the river, right? The river that runs through there. From that position while you're having a nice cup of tea that's also set up back in that corner. The kids area on the opposite side there has, of course, the pool with a slide, with a jumping board or diving board. I used the new playground equipment to construct a double-sided playground with a bridge across the pool. Over in this area, you're also going to find a family hot tub, because if there's one thing that kids love, they love to get into the hot tub, right? Archery is back here. I put a little archery area. And then I also thought it'd be fun to put a sort of small petting zoo. So I drop in one of the little lambs and one of the little goats from Horse Ranch here. A ton of butterfly spawners because it's like a butterfly garden. And I put in some of the duck spawners. So there's a little duck pond attached to that as well. Now, I don't know that the goat and the sheep or lamb or whatever it's supposed to be will actually show up. You may have to go into build mode and get them and put them there. I noticed particularly with the sheep that they kept disappearing. They would be there and then they would just flat out disappear. And they're in a little corral, so they're not getting out. The goat was almost always there, but when I placed this recently in a new save file, there was no goat. At least not that I've seen so far. So I'm going to put it back in there. You know, before I upload this to the gallery, there will be a goat and a sheep in that pen. Will there be one there when you get it and put it in place? I don't know. But if you have Horse Ranch, just go and get one out of the debug menu. You'll have to open the debug menu with cheats. Grab them, throw them in there. The butterfly spawners, though, and the duck spawners definitely will work. I did a little landscape kind of stream along there. There is a place to fish a little bit further down that stream. So as you're walking from the sort of petting zoo area there, the butterfly garden, as you're walking down that stream, there is a place to fish down towards the front of the resort. On the second floor, on the residential side, we have two large rooms. These are family suites. They are 2-bedroom, almost apartments. They do not have a full kitchen, but they have 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a Murphy bed. So like in one of them, there's enough room for 4, say, kids. There's 4 bunk beds. Then there's a Murphy bed, and there's a standard double bed in the bedroom. So you can fit 8 Sims into that particular apartment. The other family apartment I set up specifically for my family. So there was 4 adults, a toddler, and a kid. That room has one kind of bunk bed. The bottom bunk is a desk. There's a toddler bed, and then the rest of it is the same. I also created a small sitting area around a fireplace at the end of the second floor hallway for those 2 rooms. Also on the first floor, I did a small sitting area around the fireplace at the end of the hallway between the movie room and one of the standard hotel rooms. On the opposite side, in the activity wing, we have what I think of as a kids activity room. And there's a ton of activities in here. Games, video games. It's the only place there's a TV on the entire lot, except for the movie screen and the movie room. As a consequence, it is a very popular area with the Sims. Almost too popular, almost to the point where I'm about to take the TV out because I don't want them congregating there that much to the exclusion of other things. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But for now, there is a video game system there. There's also a couple of bathrooms and some vending machines. Again, because in that sort of area at a hotel where you have like a kids activity area, right? Video games, table games, things to do. You're going to have some vending machines for kids to grab snacks. Across the hall is the spa. Now, it makes a lot of sense for a hotel of this caliber to have a spa. Again, it ran hit or miss because you have to hire a masseuse, and I don't even know if you can hire a nail tech. I don't remember testing that. I think you can, but you have to hire those people, and sometimes they showed up, sometimes they didn't. I'm going to say real quick, this is a good place to put this. If you don't mind using mods, MC Command Center, you can use to allow a greater number of sims to spawn into a region. So when I had that active and set for 30 sims for the region instead of just 20, I never had a problem with people showing up. So I would click on a stall or click on the massage table, hire a service sim to come in, no problem. No problem. Even as it is, it's a neat room. It fits with the vibe of the place. You can always have your significant other give you a massage there on the massage table. And there's a kind of cool little meditation area, a little place to meditate. Got a beautiful view off the second floor, self-contained room. So you can hang out in there, get a little centered in yourself. Now, this is a really big build. As I said, it's a really big build, right? So on the third and fourth floors on the activity wing, there is nothing. I put nothing in there. Now, I had originally thought about putting maybe a nightclub up there. However, having the bar in the lobby, I just put a dance floor there with the bar. And that's really all I really needed. I really didn't need to put in a separate nightclub, especially since Sims may or may not have bothered to go use it. I wanted to keep Sims kind of congregated in an area so it felt more realistic. So it felt more like a real hotel. And so that's what I did. I did not put anything up there, but I had originally thought about putting a nightclub up there. And the fourth floor, I had no idea what I was going to do with it. Nothing. And nothing's what I did. Now, over on the residential ring on the third floor, I did put in a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but a bunch of beds in 4 additional rooms. I think of those as kind of the staff area. A lot of times with these big resorts at national parks, which are real isolated from towns, and they're only open part of the year here in the United States, they're going to bring in like interns or college students and stuff to work just for the summer. So there is no town necessarily nearby where they can rent an apartment. So they live on site. They're going to live on site. And that's what these rooms are for. Probably nicer than you'll find in real life. I wanted to set them so that if you want to use them as a hotel room, you could. But mostly I use them just for overflow. So if there's a lot of people on this lot, there's a lot of beds upstairs, you can go use those. And the fourth floor on this particular building, again, I did think about putting sort of a penthouse suite here, but the family suites on the second floor really sufficed for that and were nicer. They have balconies, right? They have balconies and larger windows. So it seemed kind of silly to put a penthouse up here in the dormer where the windows are going to be a lot smaller and there's no balcony, right? So I ended up just leaving it blank and empty. Who knows? Someday I might do something with it. I might put something up there. With that, we come to the end of this particular build tour. This is the Great Geyser Wilderness Lodge, the Forever Resort. It's been going on forever. I do really like it. I've been using it quite a bit with my families to go on vacation. I hope that you enjoy it too. It's available on the gallery. My gallery ID is Jason Sterling, RMC, just like most of my other channels and social media outlets. Jason Sterling, RMC. And please hit like, subscribe, and notify. You can check me out on those other social channels as well if you want. Please hit like and subscribe on those channels. Who don't subscribe, what do you do? Just follow. Follow on Twitter. Or I'm still on Twitter, kinda. On Blue Sky as well, and Facebook. Feel free to, follow me there. Please hit like, subscribe, and notify here on YouTube. And until next time, thanks for watching.